In the past the woman had entrusted Hangil, who was still a baby, to Jae Kyu, and she promised to take him back. But when the promised time arrived, the woman didn't come to pick Hangil up, and Jae Kyu was very disappointed. He thought he didn't know her anymore. Jae Kyu then changed her phone name from sister to that woman. When Jae Kyu realized Yoon Bom was jealous, he immediately kissed her. But afterward, Yoon Bom was shocked and ran into her house. Jae Kyu chased after her and explained at the door that he wasn't usually like that. Jae Kyu apologized for being impatient, his heart was on fire and he couldn't hold it in. But Yoon Bom also felt guilty because she started the fire, so she shared the responsibility. Then she asked Jae Kyu who the woman was. Yoon Bom thought she was Jae Kyu's ex or even his girlfriend. At that moment, Jae Kyu was at a loss for an answer, and he told her that the woman was an insurance agent. Hearing that, Yoon Bom was a bit strange, because they seemed very close. And Jae Kyu explained that she was just trying to get Jae Kyu to join her insurance, and the woman would do anything to get Jae Kyu to comply. Yoon Bom felt that the woman would definitely come to Jae Kyu again, and Jae Kyu thought, the woman won't come again. That's because Jae Kyu had forbidden the woman from coming, because if she came again, Jae Kyu would kill her, and Yoon Bom understood. She no longer misunderstood. Now Jae Kyu only had to wait 2 years to become her lover as they promised, and when Jae Kyu was about to leave, he actually had plans to go on vacation with Yoon Bom. It was just a small vacation for 1 day. At first, Yoon Bom was hesitant, but then she agreed to go on vacation with Jae Kyu. He told Ijin that her daughter called her, so she had to meet Yoon Bom immediately, because Yoon Bom seemed to have given her the green light. But Ijin told Nanhee to wait, because Yoon Bom had asked him to solve a problem of Jae Kyu which was sued by a locksmith, the problem they were facing at that time. So Ijin explained that Nanhee didn't need to rush to meet Yoon Bom, she should trust Ijin, because he had a plan. While the grandmothers were chatting, they suddenly saw Jae Kyu jumping up and down with a smile on his face. The grandmothers were confused by Jae Kyu's unusual behavior. They thought Jae Kyu's brain was burned out from hoeing in the fields. Mr. Hong told to students and staffs about Ijin, a Shinsu high school graduate with various successes, but Ijin told Mr. Hong to stop explaining because his voice would run out from telling his many successes. And Ijin felt successful because he had someone on his side. When he first met a client, Ijin always started by promising that he was on their side. Because they've all faced difficult situations, sometimes the people they trusted turned away, and it felt like no one was on their side. That's where a lawyer's true role lies, namely, being on their side. Hangil needed his uncle's help to order food for the upcoming field trip. But his uncle just smiled to himself, and Hangil felt muscles of his uncle's face relaxed because he was always smiling. Hangil also told his uncle to look in the mirror with a spoon, and Jae Kyu's face was indeed radiant, showing his dimples. Then Jae Kyu told him that after the field trip, he would be going on a day-long date with Yoon Bom. But Hangil felt like his teacher would get fed up with that, because Sejin's older brother was at school earlier. In front of many people, he wasn't nervous and continued speaking. Everyone in the auditorium was touched and stood up to applaud. Hangil also told him that Yoon Bom also applauded enthusiastically, and Hangil thought, his uncle and his teacher weren't officially a couple for 2 years. So before that, she was free to date anyone. Hangil asked his uncle to stop being silly and smile less. Hearing this, Jae Kyu got a little emotional, and he decided to do something during the field trip. While the teachers were eating, they discussed Ijin, and they knew that Ijin and Jae Kyu were the same age. They compared the two and felt that Ijin was a high achiever, while Jae Kyu was a troublemaker. It turns out they knew about Jae Kyu and the locksmith's case, and they started badmouthing Jae Kyu. But Yoon Bom explained that they misunderstood about Jae Kyu. She also explained that the woman with Jae Kyu was an insurance agent, so she asked the teachers not to spread false rumors. And when they wondered when the insurance expert would come again, Yoon Bom told them that the agent wouldn't be coming again. Hearing this, Haesuk became curious, because Yoon Bom knew all that. Then Yoon Bom changed the subject by asking for permission to leave because she had class. Haesuk approached Yoon Bom, suspecting something was up between Yoon Bom and Jae Kyu. This was because her twin sons saw Jae Kyu enter Yoon Bom's house, and Yoon Bom explained that he was only visiting to see her dog, which Jae Kyu had rescued. But Haesuk felt that Yoon Bom had been looking beautiful lately, and that she seemed to be in love. Yoon Bom also chose the environmental club field trip where Jae-Kyu worked, and Yoon Bom explained that it was purely a field trip. Then, Yoon Bom left Haesuk. Yoon Bom was afraid that the students would overhear their conversation, so she had to act cool in front of Jae-Kyu so they wouldn't suspect her relationship with Jae-Kyu. Finally, they arrived at Jae-Kyu's workplace for the environmental club field trip. But Yoon Bom didn't see Jae-Kyu at that time. So Philip called and reported the wind speed. It turned out that Jae-Kyu was on the windmill with equipment, and he announced that he would be coming down soon. And Jae-Kyu came down from a fairly high windmill. They were all shocked by Jae-Kyu's reckless action. Yoon Bom unconsciously gave him a thumbs up, and then she remembered to act cool. But the students admired Jae-Kyu so much that they changed their dreams to work at a power plant and be like Jae-Kyu. When Jae-Kyu asked for her opinion, Yoon Bom acted indifferent and asked to go somewhere else. Then they went to another location, and Jae-Kyu explained how the power plant worked. Jae-Kyu confidently explained the company's vision to the students, making them like him even more. But Yoon Bom only said it was not bad, and asked to meet with the CEO of the company. Jae-Kyu, somewhat disappointed to hear this, then he asked Philip to escort them. They entered the CEO's office, and Yoon Bom introduced herself. It turned out that the CEO was Jae-Kyu. He looked very neat and handsome. Yoon Bom couldn't believe that Hangil's uncle was the leader at the company. They felt Jae-Kyu was like a model, and they also thought Jae-Kyu was the best husband candidate. Hangil agreed that his uncle was the best husband candidate because he was strong, influential, and rich, but when Jae-Kyu asked for their opinion, Yoon Bom got a bit annoyed because Jae-Kyu kept asking for her opinion. Yoon Bom explained that she was just surprised to find out Jae-Kyu was the CEO at the power plant company. In nervous condition, Yoon Bom mentioned Sejin, who was curious about the company, and then asked about dinner time. Jae-Kyu was a bit confused by Yoon Bom's attitude, but he let it slide. Jae-Kyu wondered if the field trip was disappointing, and Hangil thought it was amazing, but Jae-Kyu felt Yoon Bom was acting very cold. And when Yoon Bom suddenly left, Hangil asked his uncle to go after the teacher. Jae-Kyu approached Yoon Bom, sensing that Yoon Bom was in trouble. Then Yoon Bom explained that Haesuk had asked about their relationship. Haesuk seemed to know something, and the twins also discussed husband candidates. So Yoon Bom asked Jae-Kyu to cancel their date tomorrow. Hearing that, Jae-Kyu immediately felt weak. This was because Jae-Kyu had been looking forward to it, and Yoon Bom was actually afraid that someone might see them later. Then Jae-Kyu would try to find a route and a quiet place so as not to run into anyone, so Yoon Bom wouldn't have to worry about it. Jae-Kyu picked Yoon Bom up in the early morning before the sun had risen. Yoon Bom thought it was too early because she hadn't showered yet, and Jae-Kyu didn't trust Yoon Bom. Because Yoon Bom was still beautiful even though she hadn't showered yet. It turned out their first agenda was to watch the sunrise. Jae-Kyu chose a place and time when there were no people around, so Yoon Bom wouldn't worry. Jae-Kyu had also prepared food and a blanket so Yoon Bom wouldn't get cold, but when the sun rose, there were teachers and students from the jiu-jitsu club running on the beach. Yoon Bom immediately hid under the blanket, and they felt strange when they saw Jae-Kyu sitting there alone. And Jae-Kyu explained that he was an introvert, so he told them to leave. But when they left, they turned around again, which made Yoon Bom panic. It turned out they felt sorry for Jae-Kyu enjoying the sunrise alone, so they decided to rest while to accompany Jae-Kyu. Because Yoon Bom hugged him tightly, Jae-Kyu felt nervous, but they saw the food there. Jae-Kyu said that it wasn't food, but they still finished the food that should have been eaten by Yoon Bom, and Jae-Kyu was very disappointed because he was willing to give up sleep to prepare the food. Jae-Kyu felt sorry that Yoon Bom couldn't enjoy the food, but Yoon Bom felt that it didn't matter, because the important thing was that they didn't see them both. Jae-Kyu took Yoon Bom to a restaurant on a mountaintop. It was a hidden gem of a gukbap restaurant, and Jae-Kyu hadn't met anyone he knew there. But when they entered, it turned out the principal was having breakfast with his wife. Yoon Bom immediately avoided Jae-Kyu, pretending to be surprised when he saw Jae-Kyu. Jae-Kyu told her that for him, gukbap was a part of life, his favorite food. It turned out that it was the principal's and his wife's wedding anniversary, so they enjoyed gukbap in the morning. Yoon Bom was very upset because the restaurant had previously been a hidden gem that few people knew about, but it had been the principal's regular place for 32 years. Yoon Bom could only congratulate the principal and his wife on their anniversary. Yoon Bom and Jae Kyu were forced to eat at a table far apart. The two of them ended up going to an amusement park, and Jae Kyu felt it was a bad idea because it was so crowded, but Yoon Bom felt they could be free there. Because the school exam was coming up, Yoon Bom was sure her students and teachers wouldn't be there. And as she was about to enter the haunted house, Yoon Bom saw Haesuk with her friend, Ijin. Haesuk thought she saw Yoon Bom, and she entered the haunted house, panicking. Yoon Bom fought one of the women who was pretending to be a ghost, and Jae Kyu later apologized to the woman, and they both hid in one of the closets there. At that moment, Haesuk called out to Yoon Bom. Hearing this, Yoon Bom panicked. Seeing the closet there, Haesuk wanted to open it, but suddenly the ghost woman came out and startled them. After Haesuk left, Yoon Bom let go of Jae Kyu's embrace. Actually, Yoon Bom was a bit disappointed that the amusement park date had gone away. Jae Kyu knew that Yoon Bom wanted to go on the rides, so he took Yoon Bom somewhere. He transformed the park into a simple amusement park. Jae Kyu pushed Yoon Bom on the swing and Yoon Bom enjoyed it, feeling like she was riding a pirate ship with Jae Kyu. Then they rode another ride and felt like they were on a spinning cup ride. Because it was late at night, Yoon Bom asked Jae Kyu to say goodbye. But before they parted, there were 3 things Jae Kyu wanted to say to Yoon Bom. Hearing that, Yoon Bom thought Jae Kyu would say something romantic. But first, he talked about balancing carbohydrates, protein, and fat, even though they would be apart for 2 years. Jae Kyu instead talked about calorie intake. Actually, Jae Kyu only asked Yoon Bom to eat properly and take good care of herself even though she was alone. And second, Jae Kyu asked Yoon Bom to name one person she wanted to kill. Hearing that, Yoon Bom felt Jae Kyu wanted to kill someone, but Jae Kyu would only scold people who bothered Yoon Bom. Jae Kyu asked Yoon Bom to live proudly, without being intimidated, and finally, Jae Kyu gave Yoon Bom a gift and say, if one day she suddenly missed Jae Kyu, she could open it. Yoon Bom also had 3 things for Jae Kyu. Firstly, Jae Kyu has to live a somewhat cowardly life, to avoid getting involved in other people's problems and getting handcuffed. Second, Jae Kyu couldn't wear a suit in front of other women. Jae Kyu understood, and he would keep his suit in the closet until they became a couple. But Yoon Bom didn't say the last thing. Thinking it was useless, they finally parted ways, but suddenly Yoon Bom said they still had 20 seconds left. So Yoon Bom said the last thing, and it turned out she wanted Jae Kyu to give her one last hug. Hearing that, Jae Kyu ran over to Yoon Bom and hugged her tightly. At that moment, there was someone who watched them from afar.